2 weeks ago, we made a suggestion to everyone. Return to monke. This weekend at Port Priority and Ultimate Fighting Arena, people finally took that advice. Today, we're going to take you through the Port Priority portion of the Kong's big weekend, with the drama, intrigue, and Panda Cup Finale spot that comes with it. Welcome to our Port Priority 7 recap. Sometimes when you need a hero, one comes for you. It had been more than a year since Tweek had won a major, Smash Summit 3, and he hadn't won an open bracket major since January of 2020, almost 3 years ago, but he finally did it. While a lot of the time we want to give some suspense, we hope that Tweek's win was able to lift a weight off your chest like it did ours and give you some sense of the strength of the indomitable human spirit. It wasn't easy though, because it never is. Tweek lost his second set outside of pools to Kronos, the Snake main best known for beating Cola at the last Port Priority. Kronos ended up finishing 9th, repping the hell out of Colorado, the state where he's ranked number 1. He only lost to Tweek and Ken, the 1st and 4th place finishers. Kronos was the first set loss Tweek has taken to a non-PGR player since June, when he lost to Toast, and only Tweek's 3rd set loss since the end of lockdown period against any player never to be ranked on the PGRU. Interestingly, 2 of those 3 losses have been to Snake mains, which could be a coincidence, but probably isn't, as dodging through the fire and the flames as Diddy Kong seems like it would be a losing battle for most players. After his other 2 losses to non-PGR players, Tweek finished 33rd in one tournament and lost back-to-back sets in another, giving people the idea that this one might just not be his tournament, and that the Japanese players flown in for the event would help to push the United States' major drought to 12 straight majors without an American winner. But then what started as a whisper quickly turned into a roar. Instead of being dejected by his loss, he was pissed, and he took that out on his opponents. Apparently, he changed his in-game tag to Annihilate outside of top 8 and then did that to everyone he played for the rest of the day. He dropped a grand total of 1 single game in his next 4 sets against PNW heroes Slushy and H4, as well as out-of-towners Naito Sharp and Loki. We'll talk more about them later. That put him into a redemption battle against Kronos, where this time he was able to clutch out a Game 5 victory and put himself into top 8, 1 step closer to matching his number 4 overall seed. Tweek would play 6 more sets. He would lose only 4 more games. He made some of the best Smash players in the world look like they just didn't know how to play the game that well, and most of the time when his opponents would swing, all they would hit was air. Much like me and my jump shots. You don't have to put that in. Please don't put that in, actually. Tweek's real roadblocks as of late have been Acola, Light, Gluttony, and Riddles, with that fearsome foursome handing him a combined 9 losses at his last 5 majors before this one. But with them not attending Port Priority, nobody looked capable or patient enough to really give Tweek any trouble. This weekend, Tweek proved that he still has what it takes to win a major, and that he might be better now than he ever has been. Tweek's performances have been strong, but unspectacular for his high standards throughout the PGRU V4 season. With some of the biggest tournaments of the year left to come, he still has a chance to return to his spot on the throne as the United States' best player. And if you're interested in the debate over who is in the best position to take that throne, tell us down in the comments and subscribe to the channel, and we just might release a video on it. But Tweek already qualified for the Panda Cup Finale at the Big House last month, so who got the lone finale spot? Well, it must have been one of the Japanese players, Shutone, Ken, or Kameme, right? Actually, no! For the first time at an American major since May, Grand Finals consisted of 2 players from the good old US of A. Kurama, just a couple weeks removed from one of Ultimate's best runs ever at Ludwig's Invitational, backed up that breakout performance with a 2nd place at Port Priority 7. He has gone from rising star to NorCal hidden boss to a genuine top 10 player in the world, after finishing 2nd at Port Priority 7 and 3rd at the Ludwig Smash Invitational. He snagged good wins over Jaredis King 1, MVD, Anathema, Shutone, and nearly took down Tweek in the Grand Finals reset. We no longer need to wax poetic about his potential. He has officially broken out and become the player that people thought he could be when he took down MK Leo at Frostbite in 2020. Now, Mario is weird because his explosive combos come from very easy to land combo starters, and his fast, long-lasting aerials and quick movement afford him opportunities to get into his opponent's space and take advantage once he gets there. Where Kurama sets himself apart is that he functions like more of a machine than a human. He always seems to squeeze every percent out of every combo. His neutral doesn't feel offensive or defensive, it just feels right. And he can win matchups that you'd swear Mario should lose just because Kurama can always get a hit, and he can kill you whenever he does. Tweek as a player does a good job of countering this by always being on the move and not letting Kurama get in, and he blew by Kurama in the first set of Grand Finals. But Kurama adapted well in the second set and really made things close until Game 5. In a Smash world full of prodigal players, the original Prodigy might just be the game's biggest threat, and we'll see more of him in the upcoming Championship December. Ken, Shuton, Zamba, and Kameme were all able to meet high expectations by making top 8. Anathema finished 5th, proving again that he should be considered among the best players in the world every time he picks up a controller. Still, top 8 had one more surprise in store for the viewers at home. Justice, the Washington Min Min and not the Oregon Ike, ended up in 7th place as the 40th seed, taking advantage of DQs by Apollo Kage and Cosmos, and also getting upset wins over Mr. E and Naito Sharp to put himself in winner-side qualifiers for top 8. That didn't pan out as he lost to tournament number 1 seed Shuton, but he was able to get his biggest upset of the weekend over Big D to slide into top 8 and secure himself a +5 SPR, the highest of any player to make top 16. And he was also PNW's strongest soldier this week, beating out Big D, Ouch, Machu, H4, and Jared is King 1 to be the only player from the Pacific Northwest to make it to top 8, which is especially impressive for a region as tightly knit and competitive as the Pacific Northwest. There were a lot of strong showings at Port Priority 7, but like they always do, the Pacific Northwest did some serious damage in the bracket. Seattle Kazuyame and Clue kicked off the weekend by beating Dark Wizzy in pools, which was good for an upset factor of +6. Another Washington player, self-proclaimed Wi-Fi Palutena main Spare, kept the party going by upsetting Swap in pools before handily beating 5th place finisher Kameme 2-0, securing himself a +9 upset factor win, all while still in his first round pool. Spare would then run into a team kill gauntlet, losing to 2 PNW players, Mystery Soul and JDV, while beating another in Captain Falcon main Zorango. And I apologize to anybody in the PNW if I pronounce those names wrong. Now, let's not gloss over the fact that Kameme, the one that made top 8, lost in his round 1 pool. Kameme had to win a total of 12 sets to finish where he did, and he ruined a lot of bracket runs on that warpath. Kameme won 10 sets in the bracket of alternate success, and in those 10 sets he had a game record of 27-4. He wasn't just beating up on soup cans either. He had decisive wins over Zamba, MVD, and Gact, along with closer but still substantive wins over Ouch and Stroder Aim. One of Kameme's victims, Pokepen, was another one of our PNW heroes. Pokepen lost to Zamba and Kameme for 33rd, which honestly, that's about as bad as bracket luck gets. British Columbia Rob main Machu went on a deep run, taking down other underdogs Clue, Ray, and Loki to finish 13th against his 52nd seed. Good for a +4 SPR. Battle of BC tournament director and, quote, the best Steve of all time in the world, parentheses, GOAT, close parentheses, unquote, Samuel, announced last week that he would be playing his hardest until Genesis early next year, but after that he would be retiring for the time being. He placed 25th and got a +3 SPR in the first tournament on his farewell tour, his best ever placing in a bracket with more than 200 players. PNW's very own Ludwig von Kupamain Buck finished 33rd against a seed of 150, getting upsets on players like Gooseflesh, Big Daddy Nom Nom, Swap, Lumicos, and Vi. Reading that out loud makes us think that those might all just be totally made-up names, but there were witnesses that can attend to this run. And this weekend, Buck added himself to a list of dangerous emerging Koopaling mains across North America. And finally, for the end of our PNW spotlight, we need to talk about H4. Formerly known as Hades, the Pikachu main has really been making waves as of late with solid performances at stacked regionals, like Back in Blood 5 where he finished 7th, and Cascadia Clash where he finished 4th. For his efforts, he clawed his way back up to second place in the state of Washington. He hadn't been able to put it all together at a major though. He had some good results, like a 33rd at Double Down, but some relative duds like a 129th at Rise and Grind. So it was worth wondering if he could defend his home turf this weekend. He absolutely did. After losing to Ken in winners, he fell to the losers bracket where he survived a close set with Mr. E, who was on the EU PGRU V3. Home turf defended once. Then a much less close set against NorCal Olimar main MFA, fresh off of qualifying for the Ludwig Invitational through winner's side. Home turf defended twice. And finally, a 3-2 set win over Sen, the best NES player in North America and the 31st ranked player in North America on the most recent PGRU. This win in particular was especially notable because according to ESAM, NES is Pikachu's second worst matchup behind only Mr. Game & Watch. And Sen had never lost to a Pikachu player in Ultimate's lifespan before squaring off against Age 4. Watching the pop-off and watching the reaction of his friends as they congratulate him for his achievement, you're reminded of what this game is all about. The thrill of competing and the culmination of hundreds of hours of work put into a singular goal, all coming together in one moment. It's beautiful and it's fun, and it's the reason why we make these kinds of videos. Because we love this game and the way that it can make us feel. But the fun was not gatekept by the Pacific Northwest. The highest SPR of the weekend belonged to Devo, a NES main from SoCal who generally floats between the 15th and 25th best player in the region, and made it onto the SoCal PR at number 17 early this year. In what was almost certainly a mistake, he was seeded 535th out of 600 players and slated to play base mage in round 2 of the tournament. He lost, but cracked off 6 straight set wins without dropping a single game in losers before his run was ended at 49th by Kameme. Wow. Devo's run is the very rare example of a monstrous SPR combined with pretty bad bracket luck, as had he not run into Kameme, there's no telling how far he could have run. Before we get to our final story, we want to take a second to shout out 3 players. Deathspade, the Bayonetta main who has already qualified for the Panda Cup Finale via online qualifiers, got solid wins on JDV and Mystery Soul before very nearly beating Anathema in 5 games and losing to, you guessed it, Kameme on loser's side. Loki, the Roy main that goes to the University of Southern California, had the first upset factor 6 win of the weekend with his victory over Klaatu. Then he got another upset over Snickledorf. Then another upset over LeBlanc and another upset over Len before bowing out at 25th with an SPR of +6. And then Rune Raven FP, who was seeded 588th out of 600. For those of you who are less mathematically inclined, like me, that is not very good, and about 98% of players were seeded ahead of them. No matter, Rune Raven crushed expectations and finished with an SPR of +5, giving every player hope that they could be the next one who goes on a deep run with the right bracket and a hot hand. And finally, for our last story of the day, we're going to talk about Toad. Toad, the player and not the character who should totally be in Smash Bros., is a Peach main from Chicago with one very simple goal: to be the best player in the world named Luis. That goal always seemed unattainable, as Louis Money, a player named Luis, pretty regularly makes major top 8s and was ranked 21 on the most recent PGRU. Toad is very good. He's ranked in the very competitive Chicago region, but as of now, he doesn't quite have that in the bag. Port priority, though, would change everything. An upset win over Captain L put him on winner's side entering top 128, and after a loss to Zamba, he was able to clutch out 3 wins over Jaden, Fizment, and Jose. He had locked himself into 25th at one of the West Coast's biggest majors of the year, an amazing achievement for the 67th seed. But then, Ouch upset Louis Money and set up one of the most anticipated matches of all time: Luis versus Luis, the final showdown. Now, everything pointed to Louis Money being able to breeze by Louis No Money, but after 5 long games, Toad was crowned champion and received the imaginary title of Best Luis in the World at Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, at least for one weekend. Congrats to Toad, and everyone else for making Port Priority a wild ride. And subscribe to the channel if you want to see more Smash content, especially coming into the championship season, where we'll see the Panda Cup and Smash World Tour finales play out in all of their glory. I've been Kimona, and from all of us here at PGstats, we thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.